Hi, Klaus.
Hi, Jennet. Nice to see you again.
Hey, nice to see you again. Hi, everyone. And this is our Journey with Care, our Friday meetings where we invite guests and we talk about topics. And today I have a very special guest to me, to my heart, my friend, my mentor, the person I really admire, Klaus. Klaus, I know that everyone knows you in the world of health and safety, but it would be great if you just could share just to introduce yourself. Tell us just a couple of words about yourself and what you do now, what you did before.
Thanks, Jennet. Thanks for having me here on Journey with Care. I think that's a great opportunity, and I will do that. Yeah, I'm Danish, but literally haven't lived in my home country for a decade now. It's kind of difficult to say where home is, which is on the one side nice, on the other side maybe not always nice, but that's just what life has given me. So I have my initial background is out of the Danish Armed Forces, spent more than 20 years as an Army career officer, and then decided to, back in the days, create my own company working with risk management of buildings. And in that, I kind of stumbled across a colleague in Siemens who asked me a very simple question if I would be interested in starting up a EHS organization from ground up in his organization in Siemens. Um, I have no EHS background at that point in time, so I kind of said, "Well, interesting challenge. Let me think about it." And I actually did for quite some time. And then we came together, and then initially I then said, "Yeah, why not?" And that kind of led me into the energy industry, where I've spent now more than 20 years working for Siemens, General Electric, in different kind of positions. And after the spin-off of Vernova, so the G last year, which was one of my predominant work tasks, I decided to start on my own. And then I created Safe Steps 24, which is more about driving cultural transformation, helping organizations to be better at doing the EHS and quality management. And then you and I have talked a lot over the years, so that's why I'm here today.
Yes, that's really interesting. So, Klaus, Safety Steps 24. It's a new thing for you. So, could you tell us more a little bit about how did you come up with this idea, where it's coming from, and why is it called Safety Steps 24? Tell us more about this.
Well, there are two main reasons. One, it was created in 2024, so that's the 24. And then there's
Mhm.
also 24 steps on how I got to the point where I wanted to be. Uh, so I said, why not? And it has nothing to do with safety as such, but it's actually a safe way of moving an organization in a different direction. So that was the analogy behind the Safe Steps 24. And this is what I do today, literally driving a very predominant approach towards culture change, but also using, I would say, machine learning and AI as a very important tool, and linking that together with, I would say, personal, mental, and health well-being. So those are kind of the elements that I kind of focus on because I know for a reason that they have an impact in any organization around the globe.
Talking about impact, Klaus, we talked about this last time we met in Hamburg. Talking about impact, and we discussed that there's so many programs available. There are so many transformation programs, leadership courses that claim the transformation, but at the end, we don't see any impact. So I think you showed me the McKinsey report that says and claimed that 70% of all transformation programs fail.
Yeah.
And if we're talking about transformation and the cultural change, and if 70% of them are failing, so why do you think, first, the first question, why they fail? You think if the knowledge is there and the competency there, and the second, how different the masterclass that you offer is going to be comparing to other programs?
So you're right. It's really scary reading. So both McKinsey and Forbes have kind of come to the same conclusion that 70% of all organizations that want to do culture transformation to improve business results, they fail. And I think that's scary. And those studies go back to 2019, 2021, 2022. So 2023. So it doesn't seem that we haven't learned our lessons because it's the same topics that come up again and again. So one, inadequate change management. So we simply don't understand how to change an organization. We talk about it, but we don't know how to do it. That's point number one. The other one is you misunderstand the culture that's already there. So people are always going to be resistant to change. Why? The human being is born lazy. We always want to do what's simple, easy for us with as little effort as possible. That's just human nature. And it's very difficult to change that in a context where somebody comes in, we need to get better at what we're doing, but really don't understand. So, what kind of culture already exists? And how do you then drive change from that perspective? And then the last one, which is also an interesting one, is people often talk about tone from the top or tone from the bottom. The truth is, you need them both, but you cannot use the same message. So a tone from the top has to be very different than a tone from the bottom, because otherwise one is talking in gibberish and the other one is talking in English, and sometimes these doesn't meet. So what I decided to do is was really going into the details of that and say, hey, what's the missing point? And the missing point is people don't use the trinity that I've kind of created, which is really about driving culture change together with understanding your data. And I deliberately say understanding your data. It's scary to see how many organizations have no clue what they're trying to solve because they don't understand the data to the full extent. Why is that? Because today we have so much data. You need to find smarter ways of analyzing your data and accepting the fact that humans are not able to do that in most cases. So machine learning and AI becomes a very important topic. And then the third part is really health management. My philosophy is as an operational leader, as an EHS leader, as a quality leader, you cannot change an organization if you haven't done any behavioral change yourself. And it's very interesting if you look at how long time it actually takes to drive behavioral change for us as an individual. On average, that takes 66 days. So in essence, if you want to do something different, you have to do the same thing over and over again for 66 days in a row, very consistently. Because what you want to do is move away from brain memory to muscle memory. So, regardless how painful it's going to be, if your muscle tells you, I'm going to do this today regardless, or it doesn't seem right, and then your muscles is literally stopping you before your brain actually gets you into a situation that you do not control. And that you can say, oh, what's new about that? But what's new about that is no organizations in the civil world talks about that, and that's scary. I come out of the military, and you are simply being brought up with the fact that you overtrain people in order for them to have certain patterns. So, as an example, if somebody shoots at me, I'm gonna get down on my belly without my brain even telling me that I have to go do that. I just absorb whatever is happening in front of me, and then I get down because I know if I don't, there's a high likelihood that I'm going to end up either seriously injured or killed. And you don't want that. So in a military context, you only work with that. That's one side. And very interestingly, You don't do that in a civil context, which is really scary.
I agree with you because when I ask people like, when was the last time you changed your behavior? Because we do expect everyone to change their
Yeah.
behavior, but we never come back to our personal journey. We never ask ourselves, when was the last time we changed our behavior? It's not so
Yeah.
easy. And I was reading the program that was developed within the Masterclass, and they talk a lot about the Trinity. Can you tell us more about the Trinity and maybe the entire philosophy behind the program?
Yeah, so the Trinity, the philosophy is, as I mentioned, is no leader can change unless they have undergone a change themselves. So that's the philosophy. So from a health management perspective, we are focusing on helping any leader in going through a journey where they're going to be mentally or physically changing their behavior that they decide and control. So we're not going to tell them what they want to change. They're going to tell us what they want to change. And then we're going to be the ones at the gate ensuring that they actually follow this through because they will have certain phases through this 66 days journey where they will be faced with pain, resistance, lack of understanding, unwillingness. And this is where you need to kind of give them small tricks on how to do that. So, from a health management perspective, you really want to drive the personal change because if you understand that, it's also easier to associate yourself with your colleagues on the shop floor or in the field or wherever you work because you can have a conversation at eye level. So now you create a common language. You create a common landing language that is really highlighting how we drive change. And then you can talk about how it felt when you are going through that process. And then you know the tools that you have in front of you to help an organization to kind of do the same. Because what you want to do is really drive that behavior change and make sure that it sticks. So that's the health management piece. Then the data and the AI piece is really understanding how to accept the fact that humans have limitations. You know, if you just take our short-term memory as an example, is a good starting point. You know, as a male, I'm able to kind of hold things in a logical order, 3 to 7 elements. So I can literally, within the first 30 seconds of my work process, I'm able to manage 3 to 7 items that I can logically remember. More than that, I'm not going to be able to wing it. The good thing is that from a female perspective, they are, when it comes to short term memory, better equipped. They can do 5 to 9, but that's very limited, right? So if you take that into the context of how you look at data, and then if you then tell me that you are able to kind of digest multiple thousands of records to figure out what is really the underlying root cause, guess what? You're gonna be in for a big surprise. You are not. You may have an idea, but that might be completely off. And I think that's the other part is we're trying to give people that baseline understanding and also kind of guide them in directions where they can actually do something smarter very simply. And also, I would say take some of the mystery out of the topic of machine learning and AI because there's a lot of mystery. Some of those are actually not valid. So we want to do that. And then the last piece is really so how do you move from a culture change? How do you move from brain memory into muscle memory? How do you create systematic approaches to how you do your day to day work so that any part of your organization are going to raise their hand and say, hey, we missed something. This is not what we used to do. So let's go back and then just do the right thing. And I think this is where if your muscle tells you to stop before you actually wander into a very dangerous situation, that's where you want to be at. And this is probably what's going to be very different with the master classes. We are giving people those tools that I know from the past actually does make a significant difference. And then you can ask the question, so do you have an example? Yeah, I do. We worked on a project that wanted to lower the number of people being seriously injured or killed. And within less than a year, we've taken out 85% of those events. So moving from 24 down to 4. That's not a statistical anomaly. That's real change. That's one side. The other side of the
Impressive.
story, and the other side of the story, if you look at the days away from work that people then had to suffer due to the injuries that they sustained, were lowered by over 7 working days. So imagine that an employee, spent less days away from work due to an injury. That is just massive improvement. And if you then take out more than 100 of your recordable events to the authorities, again,
Mm,
not a statistical anomaly. I think
mm.
those are the things that are really, really important. But it could be quality issues that you wanted to solve, non-conformance cost. It doesn't matter. The tools apply in both directions. The good thing about it, if you control environment, health, and safety, and you control your quality as an organization, you're also earning money. If you don't, I think the opposite is kind of given, and we know that for a fact. I think there are a lot of studies that kind of points to exactly that point. That organizations that are struggling in those areas are just trying to move faster, quicker in order to hope that it goes away, but it doesn't.
That's interesting because you talked about pain and resistance and suffering. And just, I think a week ago, had a conversation with the CEO of a huge energy company who actually shared exactly the same thing that we're discussing right now. He said, if you ask me, Janet, about my pain, it's a frustration. We put a lot of effort, money, training, programs, leadership, safety walks, gamble walks, and risk assessments. But it's a plateau. It's still the same plateau that we're experiencing for the
Yep,
last 5 years, 10 years. So, and my pain is how to move, how to make that next step. And I think that you're covering that, saying that any change, cultural change, starts with the behavioral change, with the leaders' change, with our personal change. But we are humans, as you mentioned, Klaus, and very often we don't want that change, or we don't realize that that change requires consistency, persistence, and also going through that from the brain memory to muscle memory.
yep,
So yes, it does resonate with me, and I'm sure it does resonate with the rest of our audience and people that are working in those positions. Coming back to the masterclass itself,
yep.
imagine that I'm the one that listening right now and thinking about, should I join the class? Why should I join the class? What do I get from that class? Who are the coaches? What is the program? What is the schedule? Could you tell a little bit more about the masterclass itself?
Absolutely. So I think let's just look at, I would say, the length of the masterclass. So the masterclass is a combination of online interactions and face-to-face interactions, and it runs over 6.5 months. Why do we do that? Well, if we tell people that they are going to be on a journey of change that on average takes 66 days, that's part of the question because we want to make sure that people actually go through this transformation and see the light at the end of the tunnel. And they have gone through these phases where it becomes tough and they get help in order to actually move over that hurdle and then continue the journey. Because I don't want them to kind of come to the training and then have the exact same experience that McKinsey is talking about. Well, 70% are going to fail. That's not sustainable for any business. It's not sustainable for a CEO that wants to drive the culture change that you just talked about. So that's, I think, the program. Uh, and then what we decided to do is we're going to be introducing separate tools into the master class. So I'm not going to call it coaching. I'm calling check-ins. I'm calling them engagements, because what you want is you want people to take responsibility and you want people to share. So the master class is more about the people that are going to be in the master class together with the facilitators, uh, because they have to kind of create a trinitum of understanding. And the good thing about it is that before they come to the master class, they're going to be submitted to a survey. In that survey, they're going to tell us what they personally want to change. So they are making their decision, point number one, and then they're also going to talk about the thing that they're going to be changing in a smaller context in their business. So not only are they going to be changing a personal behavior, they're also going to change a business behavior. And that business behavior, we are actually going to be following up on with the individual to make sure that they actually have success in that transformation. So not only are they going to be going through the personal change, but they're also going to be using those tools to try and change that in the business context. Um, and then having the opportunity to do, engagements with us on the facilitator side of the house. And once they come to the end, they have an opportunity to then continue the exchange with all of their classmates going forward. And I think that is where you're going to be creating a very personal bond with the other participants, because you are going to be sharing yourself from a very vulnerable stage, because you know that you want to change something and you have to be open about it in that context. But you also have to accept the feedback from others. You have to accept the feedback that you give to others, may be conceived as why that, or wow, that was good. So there are multiple sort of feelings that are kind of at play here. And I think this is why this is very different, and also why I decided to do that. So I think that's the masterclass from the concept perspective. Um, from participants' point of view, it's a limited participation. We've decided that we are not going to extend that beyond 20 participants. So once the 20 participants are there, it's just it's going to close, and then people will have to wait for the next one. Why? Very simple. I want to make sure that we give people the opportunity to have as much interactions with the facilitators, but also with their own teammates. And if you get it too big, that's going to dilute the whole purpose of the training. Uh, and I think I don't want to do that. So 20 is the limitation. Um, and then if you look at it from a personal value perspective, so imagine that you actually go through a training where you all of a sudden fully understand what it takes to drive behavior change because you've tried it yourself. So it's kind of like if you're in the military forces. If you're a leader, people expect that you take the lead and you're just as good as any other soldier around you, regardless what kind of rank you hold. Because if you don't, you're just going to be an empty shell. Nobody's going to trust you. And here, you're going to create a higher level of trust. You're going to be seen as a very different person. You're going to be looked at as an individual that's trying to understand people in the organization from a culture perspective in order to help understand how to drive a common approach. And it's important for me to say one doesn't fit all. And that is why the survey that people actually, do up front is how we then have to mold the program to kind of match those expectations. So for us as facilitators, it's just going to be as equally challenging because we don't know what we don't know. So the participants are going to provide some of the content of where they want to go. And then it's up to us to kind of help facilitate that. And that is why I've kind of surrounded myself with very clever people, at least from a facilitator perspective, in order to give people the most benefit of the masterclass.
That's an interesting. So basically, we create a safe environment, a
Yes.
safe environment where we're tackling this from two perspectives. It's individual change and it's a business change or operational change. And they will be going alongside together with the support of facilitators for the 6.5 months. And today, I think the purpose of our live, Klaus, is to introduce the masterclass, but not to go too much into details
No.
because we'll have more information. Stay tuned. But what is next? What's next, Klaus? So,
Well, what's next is really for me to say that the coaches that I've found have a very diverse background. Why is that important? It's important because I don't have all of the answers. That's why I engaged you to help because you have your mindset from working with risks and trying to help individuals from the heart. And I think that's important because you are driving change from people's
thank you.
heart and not mind because you want to move away from that. So that is one area. And the other one, if we take Andreas Thomas, who is a psychologist and also a sports scientist that actually is now he's worked with the Olympic training centers in Germany as mental fitness coach, but he now comes in working with very senior leaders in many organizations to help them understand what it takes to drive personal behavior change from a mental and physical perspective. And that's going to be very interesting because he's a guy that doesn't settle with excuses. He's using excuses to kind of drive acceptance and behavior change, and that's really important. And I work with him now for more than a year and a half, and I can tell you it is scary. I know some of you have already met him, and you've at least Tony know that that's going to be
He's
scary even for
great.
Tony.
He is great. That's for sure. You need to meet Andreas, everyone, really. You do.
And then Tony Atherton, Ian Oliphant Thompson, who are really great at driving culture change from a personal frontline perspective, but also having the ability to kind of create a message from a leadership perspective, but also from a frontline perspective, and having those combined. And then getting Asmus in, Asmus Leisner, who has a lean background, but knows how to drive constant change by using simple methodical tools in a day-to-day business. Why? Because lean is all about trying to create muscle memory. And people don't realize that, but in essence, it is. You're driving a change, and then you want to make that a consistent change by doing the same thing over and over again. That's muscle memory at the end of the day. And then I have Peter Simon coming in talking about machine learning AI. He worked for me back in the GE days and created a very nice tool helping to dissect EHS data to operational leaders in a very smart and simple way with no human interaction, and then made a very significant change on how people drive right actions against what the data is telling you where you need to go focus. So I think in essence, you have a very diverse team of facilitators that comes with this from a very different angle. And I think that's what people have to look forward to because that's very different. I hate trying to create people that look the same as me because nobody's going to be the same as I am, and I'm never going to be the same as you. But together we drive different. elements that helps people use that to their advantage to help drive their own behavior in a different perspective. And that what makes it really interesting, but also quite successful.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm so lucky to be part of that team because thinking about Rasmus, Peter, Tony, Jan, yourself, Klaus, Andreas, I think the success is that all of us, we do have different background,
Yeah,
different approach. And but we're not there to teach, right, Klaus? We're not there to teach. And this is very important to mention that this masterclass is not about sharing the knowledge. We learn from each other. And so it's about creating a place
correct.
to talk these
Yeah,
things.
so
Mhm.
it's absolutely not going to be PowerPoint presentations and stuff like that. It's going to be
Exactly.
a lot of real challenging exercises based on what people tell us where they're struggling. I think the individual transformation is all about what you show. You know, you can't hide behind a computer screen. It doesn't work. If you want to do something with your own behavior, you have to show for it, right? That's scary. You know, you can't hide behind anybody, and you have to talk about it. You have to tell people, hey, here's my mission, here's what I'm going to do, here's my plan to do that, and then also get critiqued if you don't follow your plan, because you are holding yourself accountable toward, you know, not only personally but also against others, um, and you win, collectively, but you also lose collectively. And I think this is what we are trying to teach people is understand that you win collectively, but you also lose collectively.
Absolutely agree with you, Klaus. And I think the success, just for all the audience, that masterclass is not a theory, it's not PowerPoint, it's a process. It's a process where we learn from each other. It's also the sharing the experience of all the participants. It's only 20 people, and it's a 6.5 month. By the way, Klaus, I've got a question for you from the audience, and the question is: if the process is interrupted before the 66 days are completed, do we need to start over again? And why 66 days?
So the 66 days is actually based on studies that multiple people have done. And the average of that is 66 days. So some people are actually able to do it faster. I think the lowest I've seen is roughly about 30-day mark, but some could go to about 200 days. So there is going to be a wide variety of change patterns that you then have to deal with. The question is, should we then just stop? No. Then you start again and say, okay, now change this. What am I going to change next? Because you have to remember that if you want to drive business improvement, it's all about how you change your behavior and how you change an organization in order to, very simple. The world that we're in right now is so volatile. It changes every day. So what you did yesterday may not work tomorrow. And you have to constantly adapt, and it's not going to get any easier. So here's an opportunity for you to learn how to very quickly get simple tools that will help you drive either a personal change or an organizational change that you just then go on. So that's one side, but it's also about helping the people, which people sometimes tend to forget, because that's what you're going to be faced with when you get out in an organization. You're going to have the same story. There are going to be people in your organizations that are going to be faster at understanding and accepting here's how we do things, compared to others that are more resistant, that require longer to kind of get over this hurdle where they're actually going to do it. So that's not going to be any different in a master class. And here it's important that the people that actually have crossed certain hurdles, they help the others talk about, so what happened? Why were you able to do that so fast? and then talk about the obstacles and then figure out how to overcome the obstacles. So it's really about driving a culture change approach also inside of the master class, because they also have to be against each other the most trustworthy group of people, and they're going to be sharing a lot of stuff that they would probably never share with anybody else. But this is what you want to do here.
It looks like it's going to be a lot of fun as well, because I know Andres is preparing some exercises. So it's not only just sitting in the classes. We're going to do a lot of exercising. We're going to do a lot of brainstorming, developing different programs, sharing, challenging each other. Case studies. So it's a very rich program. So it's not just learning. I think it's about
Now,
um, change within ourselves. That's what I'm feeling when we talk about this. It's
yes,
what brings the most impacting is about our hearts, our minds, understanding our pain. As Andres always says, we need to start with understanding our suffering, pain, because any transformation starts within ourselves, internally and then externally. So I'm really looking forward. Thank you so much, Klaus. So what's next? As I understand, we do have several live sessions with our facilitators and coaches.
yep,
So the next one is planned for the 25th of February. So we do sincerely invite you all. Again, you do have chances to ask questions, challenge us. You are very welcome to register. As Klaus mentioned, it's only 20, right?
20 people.
20,
Correct.
yeah, 20 people. And you can find more information about Safety Steps 24, about the Trinity model, about the philosophy on our website. We will share the links, we'll share all the information under the post on LinkedIn. So, anything else I'm missing, Klaus?
No, I think the next, and that's why I wanted to make sure that I give all of the facilitators the opportunity to kind of explain what they bring to the training, because the diversity of thought is really important here. So the
That's
next
so.
session is going to be between Tony, Rasmus, and Ian, who is going to talk about how to drive behavioral change from a frontline perspective, but also making sure that you have the very close linkage into the operational side of the house, and also helping them in their journey, because the tools may not be the same, and it often isn't. So you have to make sure that you kind of talked about it, making sure that you drive the tone from the bottom and the tone from the top to a mutual baseline understanding. And this is what they're going to be talking about in the next episode. And as you mentioned, um, we will share the information with you on where to actually look at further information. And if there's anything that people want to have more information, they can always reach out to either you, me, or any of the other facilitators, and happy to jump on a call and then explain it further. So people need to
Yeah.
move fast. Deadline for the assignment for the next one is April 2nd. So time is flying. So we want to make sure that we kind of have the masterclass full as quickly as possible, and then can start moving to a very exciting next chapter with the 20 people in the class.
It's going to be a journey full of experience, full of learning, sharing, physical exercises as well. We haven't had a chance to talk about health perspective within the Trinity, which is a huge part of it as well. So it's not only about health and safety, it's not only about transformation, it's not only about business and operations. We're going to do a lot of exercises and talks about the organizational health, about the individual health. So please stay tuned. Registration link will be available under the post. The registrations they're closing on the 2nd of April, so we do still have some places available. Thank you, Klaus, and I'm really looking forward for discussions with Rasmus, Tony, and next week. Thank you so much for your time,
Thanks, Janet,
and
and
thank you
we have
everyone for.
Thanks, Janet, for having me. That was really nice and nice conversation. Looking forward to seeing you again
Thank you,
in
Klaus.
person.
Always, always. Thank you so much. Stay tuned, guys. Thank you. Have a nice weekend, everyone. Bye, Klaus.
Bye, Janet.